Hello, I am the Miami Autism Dad, Victor Antunes, the Inclusive Miami Realtor, and this is the Autism Podcast at Miami's Community Newspapers. Today I'm with Manuel Cerda. He is a licensed community social worker at First Kids PPEC, and he's actually the first guest I have on from a PPEC. Now, PPE stands for Prescribed Pediatric Extended Care. Manny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And
So
it's
glad
an
you're
honor to be the first representative of Prescribed Pediatric Extended Cares in Miami.
You know, I got to tell you, Manny, that back in April when I started this podcast, I kind of knew what a PPEC was, but autism was the center of my universe. And so I started doing more research, and then we met serendipitously at a resource fair. And you work with some of the hardest cases. So I'm very honored to have you on the show. So because this is the first PPEC show we're having, I wrote an introduction. I want to go read that for the audience, if you give me a second.
Perfect.
So my guest is Manuel Cerda, licensed clinical social worker and chief operations officer at First Kids PPEC. It's a program serving students with multiple disabilities across South Florida. For nearly 3 decades, Manny has helped families find safety, structure, and dignity in the hardest circumstances. In this conversation, we'll talk about what really happens inside a PPEC, how these centers support both medical and behavioral needs, and what parents should look for when choosing care. So Manny, you graduated school in 1997.
I finished grad school in 1992.
Okay.
From
Wow.
Tulane University.
Okay, great. So you were over in New Orleans.
Yes, sir.
And then when did you move to Miami?
In 1992.
Yeah, 92.
December of 1992.
And what did you go into when you started your career?
When I first started, I worked at the Children's Psychiatric Center. I had to be supervised for 2 years by a licensed clinical social worker before I could sit on the board and take my exam. So from that point on, I started seeing that there were kids that had, issues with mental health, depression, anxiety, but at the same time, they also had other conditions, medical conditions. So even at that point, I started thinking of ways that we could have like a multidisciplinary approach to address these issues. Because if you don't feel well physically, how are you going to feel well mentally? So everything is like a puzzle. Everything fits. If you're feeling okay physically, your mental health is going to be better. Or if your mental health is better, you're going to feel physically better as well. So I started seeing a lot of kids and families that were going through a lot of these situations. Once I was able to get board certified, I was able to work more independently. I had my own practice. So I started doing more home services. I will visit homes. I will see what's going on in the dynamics of the home. And I started visiting some of the few pediatric extended cares back in those days that were active. So I started learning more. And then I started getting in my head that one day I was going to be able to have these centers and be able to provide a multidisciplinary approach for these kids.
Unpack that word, multidisciplinary.
Multidisciplinary means having different disciplines. For example, nurses, occupational therapists, doctors, physical therapists, speech therapists, working together as a whole in providing the best quality of care. And let me not forget compassionate, because that's a big thing for me. I want my nurses and my therapists to be able to be the most compassionate individuals that they can be. If they don't have compassion for my kids, I don't want them with me.
Now, since 1992, you've seen a lot of changes. What were things like back then, and how would you compare them to now?
Well, now it's more of a fast pace. Now, with the way society has moved, everything is more, a lot of digital information, things that we were not dealing with then. Now, parents sometimes get information, and I don't think it's the right information that they're getting, because the information depends on the source that you get it from. I mean, I have met with physicians that don't know what a PPEC is.
Real pediatric?
Pediatrics, yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes. So when you find people like that, the first thing we got to do, we got to educate them so they can learn and they can know. Because some of these kids require a lot of care. And it's not care that can be given by anyone, it has to be trained professionals.
Now, with autism, when your child is born, there's no way of knowing they're autistic, especially when they're in the womb. Now, with these kids who are medically fragile, do the parents know before they're born that they've got a diagnosis that's going to be,
No.
life-changing? No.
So some of these conditions develop. I mean, I can tell you a perfect example. We had a young man, perfectly young man, 16 years old, suffer an accident. Okay. Due to this accident, he lost his ability to ambulate. So,
which means to walk, to move.
To walk, okay. Correct, to move about. So he was basically bedbound after the accident. In that, he developed depression because he didn't want to deal with anybody. Imagine 16 years old, you're used to being on your motorcycle, which is how he had this accident. And all of a sudden, you're cooped up at home, right? So for 2 years, he was at home. I learned about this child or this young man through a family member. The family member connected me with the mom. I visited mom. He was reluctant to come to the center. Okay. So I went to the home. We started the process. At the beginning, he didn't want to come. So he agreed to come twice a week. So I said, perfect. So we started getting him twice a week. He will come to the center. He started interacting with the physical therapist and occupational therapist, which at that point were the most important things for him. Then once he established a relationship with them, he wanted to come 3 times a week, 4 times a week. Okay. So he started coming with us when he was 18 and a half. So he stayed 2.5 years with us until he turned 21, because at 21 is our cutoff. But in turn, we were able to help him to get a job at Publix.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So now he works at Publix.
Is he still in a wheelchair?
No, he's able now to ambulate. I mean, he still has like a deficiency in one of his eyes, but he's able to move about. And now he's working.
Yeah, and by the way, kudos to Publix because they do hire a lot of kids with disabilities.
Yes, they do.
Yes, so I have to give them.
Yes, they do. And that's our first resource for our kids that are turning 21 that want to be able to do something. Those are the ones that we reach out to.
Okay, now let's use this young man as our example, and he could be 16, 6, whatever. When this happens, what is the first move for a parent?
Well, the first move to a parent is to look for help, to be able to see what's going on with their son or daughter, and try to get, like I always said, my big thing is compassion. You need to look for a place that's going to show compassion, dedication, and the ability to provide the best quality of care.
If you're looking from the outside in, how do you gauge that?
Okay. Well, if you do a simple Google search and you put PPEC, you're going to see centers there. And mine is going to be there. First Kids is going to be there. So they can reach out to us. Now, what's the difference between us and other centers? That, first of all, one of my partners is a medical doctor, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have worked with families for 33 years. So we have the experience. I mean, he's been a physician for 26 years. So we have the experience and we have the knowledge to best help the families as far as what their needs are, not only medically, but their psychosocial needs, which is very important.
Now, I'm thinking though about the parents who the pediatrician didn't even know that a PPEC existed. What are those parents doing?
Well, some of them, pretty much nothing, because they don't know where to go. So that's where a lot of the educations, like this podcast that you do, come in hand, because when they see it, they will be able to get knowledge.
Now, in the autism world, there's places like Parent to Parent, there's the Card Center, that they will guide you through everything. Therapy centers, schools, where to get a diagnosis and evaluation, how to maneuver Medicaid. Do those things exist in the PPEC world as well?
Not as established as it is for the autism community,
Mm-hmm.
but they are there as far as being able to reach out to different, social workers, case managers, that they do know about our center.
Your case managers.
Our case managers, or in the community.
Where would you find a community case manager? Like,
DCF,
okay,
Department of Children and Families.
Okay.
I've gotten quite a few calls from DCF referring me kids
Okay.
that have medical conditions.
We spoke earlier about Medicaid covering this. How do the parents plug into that?
Okay. We take all the Medicaid plans, Molina, Humana, CMS. So basically, as long as the child has Medicaid, they are covered for PPEC services.
And then you spoke about this young man that at 21, he aged out.
Mhm.
We spoke earlier, so I'm kind of asking you a question, I don't know the answer to, but to the ones that age out at 21, but still require services like yours, what then is the system?
Okay. In the system, we have what is called adult day treatments, or better known as ADTs.
Mm-hmm.
They are for people over the age of 21 that are not already receiving services, and that goes through the APD. And they get these services approved through them, and they're able to attend these centers. And they have a lot of activities.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of activities, tell me what a typical day looks like at First Kids.
Okay. Our day starts early in the morning when our drivers and our assistants get ready at 6 a.m. to go pick up the kids that stay with us the whole day, because we have kids that come the whole day and we have kids that come half a day. So they go to their home, they get picked up. As soon as they get to the center, they get assessed by the nurses. They do a full body assessment. After that, they have breakfast. And then they start with their therapy, their physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. We also have an in-school program that they receive schooling, because to me, education is a very important component of what we provide. That's why we have everything, what I call, under one roof. So we have a teacher that comes to the center from 9 to 12, and the kids that receive the schooling at the center at that moment are in school, and they're receiving their academic instructions at that point.
Going back to the 16-year-old, I'm thinking about it. He did graduate high school.
He was involved in what is called the Homebound program,
Okay.
which is through the Miami-Dade County Public School, which we are a part of. So in this program, these kids receive instructions through the Miami-Dade County Public School system.
But he receives it at home or at the center?
At the center.
At the center.
At the center.
And it's a regular high school diploma?
It's a special high school diploma.
Now, for the kids who have just got mobility issues, but neurologically are 100% there, why wouldn't they get a regular diploma?
Well,
or do they?
Yes, they do. Now, for these kids, like I said before, we have kids that we pick up from school.
Mm-hmm.
They go to school, and we pick them up around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they come to the center so they can receive the nursing care as well as the therapies that they need. So they are involved in a regular school system through the Miami-Dade County Public School system.
That's excellent. Now, unpack that special diploma. How does that work for the parents that don't know?
The special diploma is something letting them know that they were able to complete high school, but that they require special assistance as far as being able to complete the work.
And going back to our 16-year-old, you said that at first he was reluctant to come.
Yes.
And then you couldn't pry him away.
Mm-hmm.
Why the change? Like, what did you guys do for him that made him change that way?
I think he saw that we really wanted to provide help, and he felt his own needs needed to be addressed. And I think everything just mixed. Everything just, it was a perfect match.
Mm.
From he went from being cooped up at home, no interactions, barely wanting to talk to his mother, to now being involved in a setting with different professionals that were rooting for him, that were helping him to feel better, that wanted him to get better. And he just bought into it and jumped on board, and was able to benefit from it.
Excellent. So sometimes you're going to have the kids themselves don't want to come. They're reluctant. Do you ever have parents who are reluctant to let go of their kids?
Yes. Yes. I have a couple of parents that I can think of that they were like, oh, I know my kid needs the assistance. I'm going to send them 2 times a week, and I'm going to come and pick them up. Not a problem. Bring them, and then you pick them up. And then as they came and they started interacting with my staff, they saw how their kids were feeling, how they were doing, how they were improving. So we're like, okay, maybe I'll send them another day. Maybe he'll come 3 days a week. Now that kid comes 5 days a week. So, and I get it. I mean, we're dealing with kids. We're not dealing with objects. And parents need to be 100% sure of where they're leaving their kids.
When you say objects, like unpack that for me.
Well, I mean, this is not, a place where you're just bringing something. I mean, this is a special being that we're taking care of. This is something extremely valuable. For us, every kid is a part of us, is a member of us. It's not looked at as just another one. In other words, this is it. Every kid is very important, very special.
Now, talking about these different kids, like, and I asked you earlier, but what are the top 3 or 5 diagnoses that you're working with? And then maybe what are the 3 most complex that you're working with?
Okay. We have epileptic seizure disorders. I mean, that one is very complex because you can actually die from a seizure. So people think it's not as serious, but it is. That's why you require to have nurses to supervise, and people that are CNAs that are trained to deal with these kids, right? Then we have kids with diabetes. I mean, if you have a diabetes, a drop in your sugar levels that go very low, I mean, you can die from that as well. That's why these kids, when they go to school, they have nurses at school, and they need to go to a place like ours where we have nurses as well to take care of them. Then we have kids with G tubes, J tubes. These kids literally eat through a little tube in their stomach, and that needs to be constantly monitored and supervised by medical professionals.
Now, I've heard of G tube, never J tube. What is that?
It's a variation of a G tube. It's like with a little different connection. That's the difference.
Okay. Now you mentioned diabetes. I remember back in grade school, a girl came down with diabetes, and the principal came and talked to us about, there were going to be changes in the cafeteria, but she was still able to stay in a mainstream school. So your kids with diabetes, is it just diabetes, or are there other complications?
No. We have one kid that has diabetes and also has autism.
Okay.
And we have another one that only has diabetes. So, but diabetes in itself is
life-threatening.
It's enough. I mean, you don't need anything else.
But they can still be mainstream, a lot of them.
Right.
Right.
And in turn, we have a special food program at our center where we have our food delivered every day. Okay. And everything is measured, so we know exactly how much salt, how much sugar, the kids are, eating every day.
And this is per kid?
This is per kid, yes.
Do you have kids also with anaphylaxis, with food allergies?
Yes, we do.
How do you manage that?
Okay, that's a very interesting and I love that question, because that's where my director of nursing comes in. When she does her assessment, she looks for every single possible allergy that child may have. So she does what is called individualize. For each kid, she has it's like a little cheat sheet
Mm-hmm.
where she knows so and so is allergic to all of these things. So and so is allergic to all of these things. And then she does a crossover to see allergies that they have in common and allergies that they don't have in common. So that's where the medical care comes in. So we know every kid that's in our centers what allergies they have.
Now, you have some kids with allergies that are so sensitive that they can't even be in the room with a peanut. So how do you manage that with the kids who can eat anything?
Well, we have as part of our meal program, we have a no peanuts rule. So that way we eliminate anything and everything related to peanuts, because that's one that's very dangerous. And that's one way to ensure that we're doing the best to monitor. We don't allow any candies that have peanuts. So we stream, we go over the things, and we educate the parents as well.
I had a mom reach out to me through the podcast that her daughter suffers from anaphylaxis. And she was very unhappy with how it's being taken care of or not taken care of in the public school system. So, like, how have you guys addressed that? So I guess you're doing a pretty good job. And is that all PPECs? I would imagine that they're going to be extra careful because of the kind of kids you're dealing with.
They should be. I can only speak for us.
Of course.
I don't know about the others, but that's the way we do it.
Okay.
We screen everything and anything, and then through the medical notes that we get through the physicians, which my director of nursing are in charge of that, they look at all the allergies that are listed there in their medical record.
Okay.
So it takes time, but I think it's time worthwhile to spend it to be able to scrutinize all the allergies that a particular kid may have.
Now, I imagine you're going to have parents who are like right on board. Like, okay, my kid loves peanut butter and jelly, but no more peanut butter and jelly. But you're probably going to get parents who push back.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like bridge that gap with those parents?
Education. It all boils down to plain education. And why? Okay, let's say you want your son to have peanut butter, but what are the consequences of having the peanut butter? He's going to get sick.
No, the ones who can tolerate it, but so they want it for their kids, but the other kids can't tolerate it. How do you break like that person's heart? Like, hey, other kids.
Well, that's where we try to educate them as far as being able to understand where others are. If you put yourself in their shoes, how will you feel if your child possibly had, or maybe that child has other allergies? Maybe there are other components that we need to adjust for your kid. So in doing that, we have to do the same for this child.
Okay. When I started this podcast, I thought I knew a lot, and I'm always learning new stuff. One of the things that I learned is that these kids will have multiple diagnoses. Like, I didn't know that an autistic kid can also have ADHD and other things. What are some of the common mixes that you're seeing?
Well, we've seen a lot of kids that have GI issues, and in turn, they have a lot of anxiety because of maybe not being able to eat everything that they want, and dealing with the pressure, of society. Oh no, you got to eat this, you got to eat that, and not being able to do it. It creates like an internal turmoil.
I can totally see that being, especially when you're a little kid.
When you're young, exactly. You want to have, the burgers, the pizza, and you're not able to.
Is GI really common with your kids, or is just a few of the kids?
A few.
Yeah, it's funny, like talking about like the food. My kids eat very healthy, but I don't want to cause them any anxieties. So I told my wife, look, at the house, they're going to eat what we feed them. But when they go to parties, they eat whatever is fed to them because it's not going to kill them. And if we don't let them, of course, kids want what they can't have.
Correct.
and we don't want to like create anxieties. But it's funny, like my daughter, she's autistic, so she's nonverbal, so we don't have this
How old is
conversation. She's 8.
8. Okay.
But my boy is neurotypical, and he'll even say it. We eat healthy, but when we go to parties, I let him eat whatever he wants because I don't want to create those anxieties. So I'm wondering, like, the interaction with these kids and regular mainstream kids. Do you have any kind of like maybe volunteers coming to the center? Like, how do we mainstream their mentalities of your kids?
That's an interesting question because we deal with it, even though it's a group setting, we do a lot of individualized, work with them. Why? Because, well, you have a daughter that's autistic.
Yes.
She's not the same as other autistic kids, even though you may think they are, but she has her own individualized way of being. She has her own personality. She has her own experiences. So everybody's different. So that's where we come in and we try to integrate the experiences that one has had with the experiences that another one has had and try to find a common ground. Because I have met and dealt with a lot of kids with autism, and they are all wonderful, and they all have their own personality. And the way one learns doesn't mean that the other one is going to learn the same.
Yeah.
So you have to find that ground. You have to find, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work.
Now, going back to my daughter who's autistic, so you have autistic kids. What is another diagnosis that is common that you find common with autism?
It's hard to say one particular diagnosis, but what I'm seeing is kids with diabetes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes.
Are they born with diabetes or it's onset?
Well, sometimes kids are born with it, but it's something that is developed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in the disability community, obesity is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem. I was just at a open house for my boy. So it was a regular school. So the topic of lunch came up and they went through the list of foods and I was like, you're just going to raise a bunch of obese kids. And they were all happy because, the foods were yummy.
Right.
But there was nothing healthy that I could see in what they were serving the kids.
Right. And it all comes not only of what's being served, the amounts. Because, okay, you can have a slice of pizza, but it's not the same as having a whole pie.
You heard about that?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a total different ball game there. I mean, we're talking about, or I seen kids, they don't have one burger. They have 4 or 5 burgers.
I know, it's crazy.
And I'm like,
portion control.
Oh my God. I mean, how can they?
Yeah. And that goes back to the parents.
Oh, correct.
They go ahead to the parents.
And then we look at what they're drinking. I mean, they don't have, I have a 12-ounce cup of water or something, and that's sufficient for me. I mean, they have this gallon,
the big gulps.
Big gulps.
It's like
64 ounces of
sugar.
Correct.
Of sugar.
Exactly. So, and they drink it all. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my goodness,
I know.
How can they do this?
I know. And that goes back to the parents.
Right.
So, Manny, something I want to ask you about, because I know it's a big part of your program, is the social skills and peer interaction programs. Let's unpack that, please.
Okay. We do a lot of group work with them, depending on their level, depending on their functionality. And we are always striving to push them up, to bump them up. We have kids that are nonverbal, and that's where my speech therapist comes in, because they work to help them to get themselves to be understood without speaking. So you're going to say, how is that? Well, we have a lot of sign language that goes on.
Oh, that's nice.
But most people don't understand sign language. No. So we use what is called common sign language. In other words, you have a restroom there. If I'm not able to speak, I can point at the restroom, right?
Okay.
And I can tell you, I want to go to the restroom. And eventually, you're going to catch on to it and look over there and see that I'm pointing at the door with the restroom sign. And that's what I want.
Nice.
Now, if I want to drink something, but I'm not able to speak, how could I tell you that I want to drink something? Right? If I'm hungry. So these are kids that were not able to do that before, and now they are. So that's what I say. They are being understood without speaking a single word. And for some people, it may seem simple, but for them, it's a lot. Because these are skills that they didn't have before. And now you see them going home, and then we tell the parents, listen, when he does this, this is what it means. So the parents are able to catch on to it and interact with them more. Even though they are nonverbal.
Well, I see it with my daughter. Like we're teaching her the pointing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny because, like I said, I always learn something new. I had never heard the phrase common sign language.
Yeah, so, that's what we have broken it down to. I mean, that's the term that we use.
Okay.
Because sign language is pretty complex.
It is. Yeah.
And we basically will have to take
another language.
Yeah. And how many people are really gonna do that? Not many.
Not too many.
So if we get them to do like a mainstream way to communicate as a common sign language, they're gonna be able to be to interact.
That's a big one.
In that way, yes.
Yes.
So that's why we do individualize, depending where the kid is, and we're always working on bringing them up.
Very nice. Well, Manny, I got the 2-minute warning 2 minutes ago. So I've got a few last questions I want to ask you before we close out the show. First question is, one thing you wish every caregiver knew about PPECs?
One thing that I wish they knew is that we're here to provide the best quality and compassionate care. And they can always reach out to me or any other PPEC in town. Well, hopefully it'll be me, because I know we're going to provide the best quality of care possible.
And you've got 3 centers, one in the Southwest.
We have one on 8681 Southwest 24th Street in Miami. We have one in Hollywood, 6515 Taft Street. And we have in the city of Lauderdale, 5547 West Oakland Park Boulevard.
And your website link will also be in the show notes.
Yes.
People can find you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Next question. A message you'd print for families to remember on a tough day.
Well, we print to them on a tough day. A tough day is a building block. Because a tough day doesn't necessarily have to be tough, because it's a learning experience.
Well, if you frame it that way, that's a really good one. You're right.
Yes. So if we can learn from a tough day, it really wasn't that tough, because it's going to help us for future days to overcome them. And it's basically a building block.
Yeah. And if you frame it as it's been a learning day, not a tough day. Yeah.
Yes.
That's actually a really good one.
And we're always learning.
Yeah, we're always learning.
I mean, I'm learning every day. I learn from these kids every single day, which is what I love.
Great. Next question, Manny. One resource, website, organization, hotline you always direct families to?
Well, I direct families to the APD.
Which is?
This is the Association for Persons with Disabilities.
Okay.
Which they can get a lot of resources as far as
Medicaid.
to apply Medicaid waiver, different places where they can take their kids and their families to get help.
Excellent. Next question. Single most important conversation every parent needs to have with their child's medical or therapy team.
Okay. If you don't know something, please, can you help me find out? And the reason I say this is because I have met physicians that don't know about prescribed pediatric extended cares, but they have taken their time to educate themselves so they can educate their patients.
I've had some conversations with parents and caregivers that they've told me things that their doctors have told them. And I'm like, how is that still possible? So I think that as, on the medical side, humility. That just because you've got that MD doesn't mean you know.
Be humble. Be humble.
Be humble. Always learning.
Yes.
Manny, last question. If you had a billboard on I-95, what would it say?
It will say, look for compassionate and dedicated care.
And let me ask you a question, because you've been in this business. Well, you graduated in 1992.
Correct.
Do you think we're headed in the right direction?
I think we still have a lot of work to do. as far as educating, knowledge, and not be afraid of facing the reality of, if I see, for example, that a nurse is not capable or compassionate enough, I don't want that nurse with me, because thank God the staff that I have is compassionate and humble and there for my kids, because that's what I want. I want people that are going to be there 100%. If they're going to be there 50%, I don't want them. 70%, I don't want them. 80%, no. 90%, you get in there, but still not good enough for me. For me, it has to be 100%.
Well, I think that you as a leader, you set the bar and you'll attract that team.
Yes, and that's what we strive for in all of our centers.
Excellent. Well, Manny, let's turn to the camera. This has been the Autism Podcast with Manny Cerda of First Kids PPEC. If you're looking for a great center, Manny's your guy. Remember, if you have any questions about autism, any disability whatsoever, you can always reach out to me, Victor Antunes, 305-401-6224. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.